Nigeria's presidency on Thursday responded to reports that a Chinese company, that Zhongshan Fucheng Industrial Investment Company Limited, had made several attempts to take over offshore assets of the federal government of Nigeria, describing the development as an act of subterfuge. Now, part of the alleged plan was the reported seizure of 3 aircraft in the Nigerian presidential fleet, according to a statement issued and signed by Bayo Nanuga, that's a special advisor to President Bola Tinubu on information and strategy. The federal government is not under any contractual obligation with the company. The case in which Zhongshan is trying to use every unorthodox means to strip our offshore assets in between the company and the Osun state government, end of quote. The statement goes on to say that the federal government is fully aware of efforts being made by the Ogun state government to reach an amicable resolution on the matter. Well, the Rise News analyst Dayo Sobowale is here to discuss this brewing controversy. And of course, he's here with us in studio. Good afternoon, Mr. Sobowale. I'm here speaking Chinese. I'm doing my best. It's great to have you, as always. It's great to have you.
Since I've struggled.
Oh, yes, but I made it. I made it. Now, can you give us a breakdown of the legal basis for seizing federal assets due to a state government's debt from your perspective?
Well, this is a case of diplomacy and debt trap. Mm-hmm. Right. In the past, we used to talk of ping-pong diplomacy when we were playing table tennis with the Chinese. But this is more serious matter. And it's as if this Chinese company is trying to waylay both the Nigerian government and the Ogun State government. And it's not unexpected, because that is the Chinese plan. You see, the Chinese are being derailed in international trade by the US, especially during Trump's time, because of piracy and theft of intellectual property. So Trump came really hard on them. So, and they were the best of trading partners. So they had to look to alternative sources of funds for trade, exports and imports. And of course, they've been at it for some time. Last year was the 10th year they started what they call BRI, as a building rail initiative.
Sorry, Mr. Sobowale, can I ask? So
yes.
This dispute is between the Ogun State government and the Fucheng company, I can't pronounce the long version of that, for the free trade zone. And it was a commercial agreement. And then in 2016, the Ogun State government allegedly faulted on that government. They had a contract and they backtracked and they said they no longer wanted the company to manage their assets. And so it went into arbitration. Now, the statement that Mr. Bayo Nanuga signed also invoked the P&ID case, which is another case where Nigeria went into arbitration with a private company and lost. And therefore, if you do have a $70 million contract and you backtrack legally, internationally, there's international law and there's arbitration law that protects companies. Now, do you think that Nigeria losing these type of cases, do you think that lack of continuity in government, one governor backtracking from what another governor has signed, or one president backtracking from what another president has signed, do you think this is going to affect our reputation internationally? Do you think this is going to affect foreign direct investment coming into Nigeria?
Are you holding brief for the Chinese?
I'm not.
Right.
I'm holding brief for Nigeria.
Talk.
I'm asking about our reputation, please. Considering P&ID and considering this case. It does not have to do with the Chinese. I'm focusing on Nigeria's reputation in losing arbitrary award cases internationally. This is not the first one.
But the one you mentioned the other time, at long last, it was resolved in our favor. The IP&D you mentioned.
The P&ID case?
Yes, it was resolved in our favor. At long last, we're going to find out. And this is similar to it. You get to know? In a free trade zone, in which Nigeria the Ogun State government in good faith went into business with them. But you see, when transactions failed, negotiations failed, they did not wait here. They went to American court, they went to French court. That's diabolical and dubious and treacherous. So we have to get that very right. We have always told government that the Chinese do not give free lunch to anybody. They will get their money back. It happened in Sri Lanka. You get me? The president thought he was stormy with the Chinese president. They built a deep port in Sri Lanka. When they couldn't pay back, they took it on a list for 199 years. This is not the first time they are doing it. In Africa, Tanzania and Zambia have resolved not to have any dealing with the Chinese again. And I was trying to tell you how they are going all over the world. They have 3 initiatives. The Chinese initiative on security, initiative on development, which is why they are here. If you live in Lagos, you will see what is going on all over the place. Expressway and all that. But they will always collect their money. Invariably, when they do loan transactions, unlike the IMF or World Bank, they have confidential conditionalities. But you see, their loans are soft, and they know the needs, infrastructural needs of African nations, development, road, rails, energy. They pour money into it. The Road Belt Initiative, that was what they call the one on development. The one on that's on infrastructure. They have one on security, whereby they involve armies and security forces on exchange programs and so on. But at the end of the day, you get me? According to their civilization initiative, they are trying to turn most of the economies they are dealing with into one-party state, like China.
So you think that this is economic sabotage by the Chinese on Nigeria?
Okay, do you hear what I called it before? Diplomacy,
you said it was treacherous, yes.
Death trap. And we have just walked into one.
Maybe
this will be an eye-opener that we don't walk into others. Because we are seriously in debt with the Chinese.
Well, also, Mr. Sobowale, one salient point to mention is that there's no free lunch when it comes to dealing with the Chinese. Yes. So what do you think, what mechanisms would you like to see that should be put in place to prevent state-level debts from potentially jeopardizing federal assets in the future?
Invariably, it's the Chinese that come to these subnationals and governments. But at the end of the day, you can see that it violates their sovereignty. It violates their sovereignty because you borrowed money from a state government, and they said all they have done on that place is to build fence around the free zone area. And then they packed off and started suing in international courts. It's diabolical and dubious. You get me? It's not as if I'm being patriotic. In international law, it is not done.
It is done, just like in the PNID case and in the OPL 245 case. These are private companies dealing with Nigeria
judgment was against
government.
Us, like this. And we appeal, go and find out at the end of the day. Shehu Malami pursue that. So the onus now is on this Attorney General to take the bull by the horn so that we know the law on international trade and finance.
So what do you see as potential economic consequences for Ogun State and Nigeria as a whole if this dispute is not resolved swiftly?
It has nothing. It's a case in court. It's been known for a long time, almost 10 years now. It's a case in court. That's why Obi came out and said it was shrouded in secrecy. That is not the issue. Court cases go on, and when they are not yet meant for the public, but when they are politicized, because it is politicized now, then people come out. But it don't negate our rights, sovereign rights as a nation. So, we have every right. So and I'm very suspicious of the Chinese.
Yeah, so I want to ask, because the Chinese company was able to get a judgment in the U.S. Court of Appeal against Nigeria for $70 million. They've been able to get a judgment in the UK now for seizure of 2 physical properties, and I believe in Liverpool. And they have also been able to get judgment for seizure of the planes, an ex parte judgment in France. What do you think that in these different jurisdictions, these are not necessarily Chinese-friendly countries, But very briefly, what do you think that they have seen in the UK, in the US, and France that's making every single one of them to give judgment against Nigeria?
They are diabolical.
Okay.
They are not, even in the EU, the Chinese are under suspicion. You get me? And what I've just told you is the conclusion, that they are trying to make trade with them, and that they should be careful so that their supply chain, get me, is not in the hands of hostile nations like the Chinese. Get me? So we are developing, get me? So, but you know, what I want is for us to tackle this legally to a logical conclusion. Let them file 20 cases. Get me? This is a sovereign nation. We can defend our rights. People cannot just strip us of our assets just on dubious negotiations and transactions.
Also not backtrack on commercial transactions.
Hello?
Yes.
What did you say?
Huh? I said I agree with you. They can't strip us of our assets, but also we have legal requirements in international. Yes, we have international legal requirements in commercial transactions.
Yes.
Great.
And it's up to the Attorney General of Nigeria, Attorney General of Ogun State, to put their seal on and battle for Nigeria in any court.
As we say, Sam. Thank you so much,
Thank you so much
Analyst,
for joining us,
Mr. Dayo Sobowale. Thank you for your time here on Newsday. We appreciate you as always.